Hey folks, it's Hooves of Doom, and I wanted to get this video out a little bit earlier this month than the previous month, and that is my hobby journey video, what I was up to in November. Apart from Holy Havoc, a lot of prep for that. But, when I got back from Holy Havoc, I wanted to work on Nagash, and that's what I was talking about before, about finishing up some of those models from the previous month. And I've only just really got around to that now. So unfortunately, those will be on the PMP for December, but that's fine. It will still be on there, and I'll get a little bit of comments, hopefully, from Vince and the gang. So I spent most of the month organizing because coming back from the tournament, I wanted to get a good grasp of the collection, and sometimes that needs to be done. And so I need to kind of reorganize things in light of AOS. So I rearranged some of my organizational structure on some of the files and stuff. But now I need to kind of go through the General's Handbook and figure out how many points I have of each different army. And I know like the inventory of the exact number of models is a little bit off, and that bugs me. I'm kind of clearly a little bit more detailed oriented when it comes to like my collection than some people. So I need to kind of go through that. So I spent some of the month assembling boxes, and that's what I talked about last hobby journey video as well, something I wanted to do. And so I didn't get them all finished by any means, so I'll be doing a little bit more of that throughout December as well. But I got 2 boxes of Liberators for the Stormcast Eternals assembled. And these are like the standalone kits. I bought them a while back for a decent discount. And so they have a little bit unique posing compared to like the ones you get out of the starter box. And they have the alternative options for weapons and the Grand Hammer and stuff like that. So they're kind of useful because the Grand Hammer does add quite a bit to the unit. It's not game changing, but it definitely ups their potency by a little bit. And then I actually assembled most of the AOS, or most of another AOS starter box as well. That I had. I bought this early of last year. Now, I'm not going to try to keep duplicate models. Now, I actually am going to put some models on eBay, which is kind of rare for me. I don't usually do it. But I think, if they're like a specific character, even in the starter box, I don't know if I want duplicates of it. So I'm going to try to sell some of those. And, the money will just go into future projects. So in some ways I should be doing that. Reduce the costs on those. But I also put together the Gore Chosen box set and the White Dwarf model. So I got 2 of those White Dwarfs because I got like a duplicate copy. So I'll probably put that other a Khorne Bloodbound character on eBay. It probably won't sell for a lot because probably a lot of people have them, but whatever. And then I put together the Warhammer Quest box set as well, and 2 of the independent Warhammer Quest character boxes that I bought as well. And then finally Lost Patrol. I put together. That's simple, just a bunch of scouts and gene stealers. Nothing too crazy there, but there's a lot more to do. It was fun. I actually worked on that quite consistently and kind of enjoyed just kind of sitting down, watching some YouTube, and putting together some models. That's probably why I have such a huge collection. I don't know. The painting's always been a challenge, but assembling models, that's always been kind of fun, and collecting them, obviously. As some of you know, I'm sticking to my chart system for future projects, but I kind of lost track of that halfway through the year and started buying just random junk. And so some of that continued at the beginning of November, where I was hell bent on doing Stormcast Eternals, and then I kind of thought, well, that's not what I rolled, and so that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stick with the projects I was already kind of started and just kind of go through with that. But part of that, I actually got a good deal on this. But I did pick up a Celestant Prime for a pretty good deal. So at some point, when I do get to Stormcast Eternals, I'll have a good little army kind of already set up. Between the couple starter boxes, the Celestant Prime, the 2 extra boxes of Liberators, and the 2 characters from the Warhammer Quest character boxes. That's a pretty decent little start for a Stormcast army, that's for sure. And then at Holy Havoc, I won a box of Plague Bearers as part of the raffle. So I didn't win the tournament, clearly. But I put a couple, I put some money into the raffle, and it paid off. I suspect probably most of the money went towards the charity, which is good. No complaints there. But I got a box of Plague Bears of Nurgle. So these are actually my first Nurgle demon models. I've never actually owned any demon models of Nurgle. So that's kind of cool. That got prioritized back on the chart. So future project. I also pick up obviously the White Dwarfs. They both the November issue and then the December issue arrived in late November. So finally it actually arrived on a decent time schedule. It's been arriving kind of late. So gaming wise, well, we put together Silver Tower because my wife wanted to play. And I must say, Silver Tower is fantastic. We've played a couple games insofar as we wiped very early on. I think mostly a mistake on our part. We also did this crazy ambush the last game, and then I realized, we weren't supposed to do that until we get more skills. This is ridiculous. We're all going to die. But yeah, it was kind of a mistake on our part, and it shouldn't have happened. But we did wipe the first time. Just a bunch of bad luck. Could not make an armor save to, if our life depended on it, which it did. And so they, at that time we were playing with just 2 characters. We've decided to play again, and we're playing with 2 each this time. So it might be a little bit easier, I assume. Maybe more guys. Obviously, when you spawn guys, there are a little bit more, but you just get many more attacks and more opportunities to do different abilities and so on and so forth. So I think we're really enjoying it. We've actually thought about playing through Hero Quest, the 2 of us, and maybe doing some videos about that experience. But I won't do anything with this quite yet because the models are unpainted. But it's been a great fun, and wife wants to play this weekend, and I'm not going to complain. So I'll look forward to that. So on an update on the future projects. Now, about a week or so ago, probably, I did the Die as Cast video where I was planning on doing Nurgle Rotbringers as a future project. And at the time, it was going to be Nurgle Rotbringers and parts from Tamarkan. Now, I looked at Tamarkan a couple days after making that video, and what I realized is that there are components of that army that make it a legitimate independent faction, right? It has its own kind of keywords, its own command abilities. It has its own battle line options. So it's really like any other faction from Forge World. It's a distinctive army as well. So what I did is I added it onto the chart as its own list, so it might come up eventually, but I'm not going to pursue that as part of the Nurgle Rotbringers. So this army will be purely Nurgle Rotbringers. Now, as I said, I was trying to prioritize unpainted armies. And I did this very publicly by making the video, and I kind of realized, there's one guy that I thought was Nurgle Rotbringers, and then, when I was looking in the Grand Alliance tomb, I kind of quickly realized he's more of an exalted champion from Slaves of Darkness. And so basically, I'm not going to be doing any unpainted models. I'll put him aside. I'll do him with Slaves of Darkness when I get to them. And so this will be a purely new faction, which I'm excited to do it. I wish I had a bunch of unpainted models to do with it. but I don't want to mix and match different factions. I want to stick with Nurgle Rotbringers. I think it's fine though, because between the Free People army that I'm about to begin or working on right now, and then the Cadian Imperial Guard army, I'll be painting up a couple hundred unpainted models. So I think it will be okay. Like by the end of the year, I will have cut down on my unpainted model count and increase the amount of percentage of the collection painted, which is kind of the goal. Those two goals at the same time. So I think overall I'll be happy with it. And it's a pretty small model count army, because the Blight Kings are your main battle line, and there's I'll probably just do basic units of 5. So for future projects, now bases, I was actually thinking of making a whole video about this topic, because bases annoy the hell out of me. Like they really do. Like I can look back at old painted models that maybe as a cohesive force don't necessarily look that good, but I don't know, bases I just always look at them and think, it could be better, or it's too plain or whatnot, and or I'm doing the exact same technique of every single army, and it's just, I don't know, it's like that. It's more the hobby craft part of the entire hobby, where it's you're working with glues and like twigs and rocks, as opposed to like the plastic and painting and the glues, or plastic glues and stuff. I don't know. I'm always on the fence about it. Now I bring this up because I'm thinking of doing the Shattered Domain bases. The new, relatively new bases that GW put out that are specifically for their board. Really, that's kind of what it's trying to imitate. Now, I don't actually own the board, so I don't know if it will look that good, and I'm really on the fence with this. Part of it is, I showed the bases to my wife. Like, I was telling her, this is what I'm thinking of doing. She hated them. Now, I've taken her input into consideration, but I do think the way that GW promotes them, like how they're painted on the box, is just really outlandish. They're painted in like bright blues, and it looks like they're walking on a bunch of like everything's been highly it's just very outlandish. They don't really I don't want my guys looking like they're just walking purely on a bunch of tiles that are like painted. That's not really what I'm looking for. And even the paint scheme that they used just seems a bit weird, because they painted them up in like gold and this weird bright paint scheme that I've never seen before. So the combination of the model and the base just looks really weird to me. But I've also seen other people paint theirs up in very muted, low-tone colors, and I think it looks cool. I like the idea of the bases being a little bit higher, some built-in detail. I think you can always add like mud, or if there's elements on the base you don't like, you could probably have that removed. But adding a bit of mud here and there, maybe some grass on top of it, I think it would still work. And why I'm concerned about this is because going forward, number one, I kind of like the idea of a uniform look for the entire Grand Alliance, right? So like all of my Order armies, I kind of want them based, not identical, but very along the same line, so that if you have a mixed force, they're not like distinctly different with like distinctly looking bases, because that will clearly it will clearly be obvious that they're not from the same army. But I'm wondering if I can have like a general basing scheme with those bases, using specific techniques or colors that denote the Order army, and then denote the Chaos army, and denote the Destruction army, and denote the Death army. Maybe when I do Death, there's more of the skulls on the base than the others, or it's more of a gray tone as opposed to the Order, which might be more of a brown tone compared to the and you can kind of maybe add some extra details. There's lots of like little tiles and stuff. So for the order one, maybe keep those intact, but for the chaos one, have them a little bit more beaten up. Put some little with like the just make them so that the bases are a little bit more dirty, a little bit more scratched up, etc. And you could still do some variation between the armies with Nurgle, some of that like green goop or slime in the cracks, but overall the same general look as the Chaos Army with Khorne, maybe some blood effects on there or something. Something that does make it look cornate, but belong to a cohesive force. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm hesitating. I'm really on the fence of it. I don't know because I don't know. I'm kind of just I'll have to make a decision, and I'm really kind of an all-in type guy. Like I either want to do it with everything, or I don't want to do it with anything, and I'm just not sure what would be the best path forward. Obviously, there's some costs. I'll probably do this with 40K as well. That's kind of the other thing I'm thinking. And for the 40K, it's like, well, some of the armies, like, there are specific basing ones. Like if you're doing Space Wolves, you probably want a winter base. Can you use those and apply like a winter technique? For the 40K ones especially, it might be really difficult because they're more like an urban setting. But you could cover up some of the detail, keep a couple little hints of it here and there, and just put some snow on there. I don't know, maybe. They're decently costed. Now that's a huge concern for me because I do have a bunch of generic bases that I bought a year ago that I can still base a bunch of my guys with, but I could probably put them on eBay and just people do buy those, so I might be able to recoup some of the costs. Those new GW bases are quite cheap, so that's something that does appeal, obviously, because I have a lot of legacy armies that I want to rebase. And one of the perks of being such a terrible hobbyist and only getting into painting now is that it's easy just to kind of remove the bases. I don't have like a ton of 8th edition armies that are painted up on beautiful bases that are all square. I could just get rid of them as I'm painting them. But one little perk, and obviously a huge downside. I think up front the cost could be lower because you get far more bases for cheaper costs than you do buying the traditional round ones. And like the idiot I am, I buy them right from Games Workshop. But over a longer period, there might be a bit more because you do get repackaged Age of Sigmar box. You do get some rounds in them. And I'll be obviously replacing those with these new ones. So, like I said, if I don't put them on the secondary market and try to recoup the value, it will just increase the cost overall, especially for the 40K ones, which are obviously all in rounds. All right, enough talking about bases. All right, no one likes bases, including me. So finally, for YouTube, I think I made some good progress this month. I put out far more videos in November than I have in recent months. And I think that's a good thing. And it certainly helps to promote the channel. The biggest metric, I think, for gaining new subscribers is simply producing content. You can tell that because some of the videos get far more views than I have subscribers. And, that's generally a result of that video coming up on, their YouTube main page or whatever. And that only happens if you produce content and have them tagged appropriately. But I think that's good. I will be graduating from grad school next week. I'm kind of excited. It's been a long journey, and it's probably not over quite yet. Now, I raised this because this gives me some spare time. I'll probably be hobbying a lot. That's the plan. So I hope to get a lot done in December. And if I come back for a hobby journey video in January and I got like nothing done, hopefully that isn't the case. It better not be, right? But finally, the reason I bring this up, the biggest reason I bring this up is because my job field is fairly competitive, and that's important to you guys insofar as it's likely I'm going to be moving again. I hope if I do that it isn't quite as much a disruption, that I can, quickly get in the groove and get back to hobbying very quickly. But the reality is that I'll probably be looking nationwide. We moved to Colorado. We move a lot. Like, it's about an average of once a year. And moving to Colorado has been great. If I can find a job here, I will certainly stay here. But the reality is I probably need to look nationwide. It's just it's just the market for my profession, and things are competitive. So I'll be looking kind of most states. There's a few I don't really want to move to, but I'll look, probably 80% of the U.S. And if I find a job, because things are a bit scarce and there's not a huge amount of opportunity, I'll probably stick at that job for a couple years at least before I look for a promotion or try to move up. So wherever we do move again, if we do move, it'll be a little bit more permanent than this position. We've only been here like in this home for like 4 or 5 months. I think we moved in the end of July or something. So that's the way it is with us. We love it here. Maybe I'll get a better hobby room next time. That's kind of always a potential. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up. It could be several months though before I have a clue. You never know. I'm kind of bracing for the long haul. I'll be looking for a lot of jobs, but it could take a while. Anyways, see you in a future video, and have a good one.